a brand new thing we're going to start as a church, a drive-through drop-off on the first Saturday of every month, where you can come by and drop off safely canned food for people in need in our community, just like we did earlier in the month of June.
It's so awesome that as we feed our neighbors, as we nourish their bodies, that we also connect this with the first of the month, the first Sunday in the month, being our time for communion, where we nourish our souls. So when you come on Saturday to drop off your food item, you can pick up the bread and the fruit of the vine that will be pre-blessed and pre-packaged. And then on Sunday, when we worship together online, you will have the communion elements in your house, and you will be spiritually nourished.
So join us moving forward on the first Saturday of every month to drop off canned food and pick up your communion elements so that we can unite together in communion on Sundays in worship.
Good morning. My name is Paul Redden. I'm the new worship pastor here at Davidsonville United Methodist Church. And I'm so humbled and excited and honored to be with you and your church and your staff and your vision. I want to say thank you on behalf of our church for joining us today for our online service. We're so glad that you've chosen to worship with us today. And we don't ever want anybody to feel isolated or alone. So would you do us a favor? Would you leave us a comment and let us know that you're joining us today? That way you will reach out to us and maybe we can reach out to you as well. Today we continue our journey in the Psalms. The Psalms are so relevant for us today as the psalmist described and experienced just virtually every human emotion and feeling that you and I encounter even today. What a treasure the Psalms are for us to know that the psalmist, even though going through tough times, God was with him. And the same is true for us today. God is with us no matter what we encounter. So we hope that encourages you today and blesses you today as we share in the Psalms. Today, Pastor Wendy is going to talk to us about the experience and the feeling of sadness, something all of us can relate to. And so we hope that as she shares with us and you experience this service, that you'll be uplifted and encouraged. Again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Breaks the power of sin and darkness, whose love is mighty and so much stronger. The King of glory, the King above all kings, who shakes the whole earth with holy thunder and leaves us breathless in awe and wonder. The King of glory, the King above all kings. Yeah, this is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. You lay down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Who brings our chaos back into order, who makes the orphan a son and daughter. The King of glory, the King of glory, who rules the nations with truth and justice, shines like the sun in all of its brilliance. The King of glory, the King above all kings. Yeah, this is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. You laid down your life, that I would be set free. Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy, worthy, worthy. Oh, this is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place. That you would bear my cross. You lay down your life. That I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. All that you've done for me. All that you've done for me.
Today's scripture comes from Psalms 13, verses 1 and 2. Long enough, God, you've ignored me long enough. I've looked at the back of your head long enough, long enough. I've carried this ton of trouble, lived with a stomach full of pain. Long enough, my arrogant enemies have looked down their noses at me. Take a good look at me, God, my God. I want to look life in the eye, so no enemy can get the best of me, or laugh when I fall on my face. I've thrown myself headlong into your arms. I'm celebrating your rescue. I'm singing at the top of my lungs. I'm so full of answered prayers.
Are you getting used to wearing a mask? I certainly find it difficult in the heat and humidity of summer, but actually I'm getting accustomed to carrying one and then whipping it on as I leave my car to go to the store or to work or even to chat with friends in the great outdoors. I'm very grateful for this cotton mask that my daughter gave to me. Wearing it helps catch all my breath particles and protects the people around me from any germs that I could be carrying. You know, Steve Leonard has a mask that permanently has a smile embroidered on it in the hopes that people know that he is smiling behind his mask. With our face half covered, we can't see our smiles or any other facial expression, and it makes communication quite difficult. But Steve's smiley mask is also symbolic of another kind of cover-up. We tend to cover up or mask our internal feelings and emotions. For example, if you were walking down the street and a friend waved and called to you across the road and said, "Hey, how are you?" I bet you'd answer, "Fine." Now, I know that we are not in the habit of yelling our business across the whole neighborhood. But in our culture, we also don't really share, even if we were standing side by side, our woes. We are told to put on a happy face. You know, gray skies are going to clear up, put on a happy face. Brush off the clouds and cheer up, put on a happy face. Spread sunshine all over the place and put on a happy face. In reality, we need to share our struggles so that others can acknowledge our pain and support us. We live in a broken world. David Taylor, the author of Open and Afraid, the book that is grounding this whole sermon series, names some of the things that shatter our lives, like relationships that sour because of harsh words or open festering wounds, prolonged illness and chronic pain that just steal all the joy out of life, the loss of meaningful work that provokes suicidal thoughts, unexpected death that leaves the other heartbroken, the burden of unpayable debt that just plunges a family into poverty, addictions that fracture the lives, not only of the person using the substance, but also the whole family. And all of those overwhelming feelings of anxiety and distress that stick around for so long. Other experiences of the world's brokenness are much broader, affecting more people, like whole communities or all of society. Like floods that submerge businesses and force people from their houses. Forest fires that just devour up the land and the animals and homes. A terrorist attack that decimates the marketplace. Systematic racism that just leads to nightmarish cycles of violence. Religious persecution that transforms a whole community into a refugee people. Volatile oil prices that put entire industries at risk. And the outbreak of a viral infection that causes the death of millions. Poverty, oppression, disease, genocide, environmental decay, they all mark our world in one way or another. My own family has been through the ringer over the years. When my daughter was going through her late teen years, she wasn't well. Life was really unpredictable. It felt dark. It felt like trying to walk through a tunnel of thick, stinky sludge, carrying a 30-pound pack. One of the days in that period of time, I went to the grocery store and I had a list. And I came home with most of the groceries on that list. Milk, bread, eggs, and 1 apple. I don't remember if the list said apple or apples, but come on, what was I going to do with a family of 5? How was 1 apple going to be helpful? But all that stress, all that pressure, all that unknowing, all those dark times, they fog up your brain. You don't even have the words to explain what is happening to you. I couldn't even put my thoughts together clearly enough to pray. My prayers were tears and whispers of, Lord, help me. Taylor says that when we reach this point, we need a language to say out loud what our hearts can only say with groans. We need a community to bear witness to our sadness, and above all, we need to know that God can handle our broken hearts and our words of rage. And this is what the Psalms do. These prayers give coherent shape to our incoherent thoughts and feelings, and they do it in the presence of God. Listen to Psalm 13. Long enough, God. You have ignored me long enough. I've looked at the back of your head long enough. Long enough I've carried this ton of trouble and lived with this stomach full of pain. Long enough my arrogant enemies have looked down their nose at me. Did you know that you could complain to God like that? To accuse God of ignoring you? We have a tendency to pretty up our prayers before God and to hide our true feelings or emotions that we've labeled as bad. But the psalmists let it all hang out, especially in a lament. The language of lament is forged in the crucible of trouble. It is a visceral language. It comes from our guts. The first job of a lament is to shout or cry or whisper or weep or wail our pain out to God. Our distress is voiced with emotionally packed, evocative language. God knows our pain, but we need to tell God each and every detail. Doing so helps us come to terms with our situation. The second purpose of a lament is to petition God, to ask God for what we need. Now, the laments are just full of demands to listen and to forgive and to heal and to vindicate and relieve and sustain and most frequently to remember. Today's psalm, Psalm 13, orders God to look at me, take note of me. I want to look life in the eye so that no enemy can get the best of me or laugh when I fall on my face, it says. Theologians note that such prayer is intense and dangerous and urgent. It moves deeply beneath our usually safely worded prayers in which nothing is at stake. Because in this kind of prayer, everything is at stake. The third section of a psalm often begins with but. As the author moves from their cry of pain and their request for help to an affirmation of trust or words of praise. But I trusted in your steadfast love, says the version of Psalm 13 in the NRSV. I've thrown myself headlong into your arms and I'm celebrating your rescue. I don't know about you, but such a neat resolution looks a little bit false, especially after such expressions of grief. We rarely move from how long will you leave me in this pit of doom to I'm singing your love at the top of my lungs. I'm so full of answered prayers. The point is that lament doesn't just bemoan our human hardships. Rather, it seeks change. We describe our pain, we ask for relief, and then we affirm our trust in God to show us the way forward. The structure of a lament reminds us that God is with us. God hears us, even when we are so sad that we can't feel or hear God. The Psalms point towards the hope in God for repair and renewal and restoration, and ultimately for the wholeness of life with God now and eternally. Lamenting allows us to unmask our souls and breathe that clean, fresh air of life with God. Now, the change that we're hoping for, the change that we seek, might come slowly, very slowly. Taylor reminds us, for those who experience systemic injustice, there is often no clear resolution. For those victims of abuse who still carry the scars on their body and on their psyche, may still be unanswered questions. For the broken and powerless, there is frequently only one option, which is to just endure. And yet, the Psalms have given each of them a voice and helped us hear them. They, or we, if we're the ones waiting, have a place, a confirmed place in the community of God's people. The lament songs help us to name our reality and make sense of the often senseless things that happen around us or to us. And they bring us into God's compassion, into God's love, into God's grace. In my case, the Psalms pointed the way through that dark tunnel of stinky sludge and allowed others to share my burdens. And eventually my daughter was healed and we all felt safe and comfortable until the next time that some inexplicable disorientation happened to our family. And then we could turn back and sing those same psalms again. Been really worried that with all the social distancing that our community is doing, that I'm not seeing your pain, that the church, the congregation, isn't really aware of what each of you is going through. And so, in order to help gather up our prayers, in order to help you lament, we've created an online prayer form. Now, whether you go to our website and use the online prayer form or send us an email or just pick up the phone and call, we would really like to know what you would like to pray for. Please help us uncover your laments so that we can walk with you, so that we can pray together as a community and all of us live in God's wholeness together. We live in a broken world, but healing and wholeness and holiness with God is possible. The Psalms of Lament help lead us into the fullness of life with God. So I hope that you keep reading a psalm or two each week during this summer in the Psalms. Amen.
We are at a point in our service where we are going to stop and unite together in prayer. Last week, we launched a brand new prayer form on our website where you are welcome throughout the week to go and log on to the website and submit your very own prayer requests so that in our online worship space, we can be praying for the same things that those of us who are beginning to gather in person in the Green Cathedral, that they can be praying for the same things, and as a community that we can come together in prayer no matter where we are worshiping. So today I have a few prayer requests from our church family, and I am going to pray them in the form of a lament prayer, as Pastor Wendy talked about in her sermon today. So, would you join me in prayer? Holy God, a cloud of grief and despair often hangs heavy over our head. So today, give us the strength to pray. We raise our hands towards the sky and lift our eyes to the hills, which is where our help comes from. Lord, when the names of people who are sick, in pain, and hurting are too many to count, we know that not one soul has been forgotten. As many of us in our community are struggling with mental illness, medical procedures, addiction, and loss, Father, how long must they endure these painful situations? Help us, God. Help us. Help us examine ourselves. Help those of us who are lonely after loss and struggling in isolation. Help those of us who are facing medical battles. Help those of us who are navigating this new normal of learning and teaching from home in the coming months. Help those of us who are sad and angry and working at changing the injustices we see in the world around us. We hope for healing. We hope for restored lives. Our hope is in you, God. Deliver us from our fears. Oh God, come quickly to help us. Oh Lord, come quickly to save us. In the name of the one who came, that we may have life and have life more abundantly. Amen.
When the pieces seem to shatter, together off the floor, and all that seems need to know that you're still